Morning, Saturday, October 12th, 2024. I'm Larissa. This is my video diary. It's time to drink from skulls, but the skull has not yet arrived. And it's okay if he doesn't even bring it this morning. I feel bad. I didn't make him dinner last night. What a shitty wife, right? Didn't even make him dinner, and he worked really fucking hard yesterday. Well, it's not like there wasn't any food in there that he couldn't eat. And he did and went and got himself something, right? Oh, I was working. I wasn't just out. I wasn't just out blowing smoke. Although I blew me some smoke last night. Oh my God. Blew me some smoke last night. Yesterday. Oh my God. Oh. Yesterday was. Oh. I ate fast food and smoked cigarettes yesterday. Oh my God. You would have thought I was fucking 20 years old again. No, not at all. But I did smoke cigarettes and I did eat fast food. Cheese. Cheese on pizza. Oh my God. I wish it were cheese on pizza. It wasn't even cheese on pizza. It was egg and cheese biscuit from Carl's Jr. Oh my God. I suppose it could have been worse, huh? Could have been. Could have been a hamburger. Ugh. Anyway. Ugh. Yeah. So went to court. Fucking A. Had to refile the suit. The judge was funny. She told him, she goes, she's going to refile the suit. And they were like, yeah, I know. At one point, they had given me the runaround about, who owns the building, blah, 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 blah. It took me some time to find out who owned the building, blah, 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 right? Finally, the judge goes, all right, folks, who owns the building? Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, refiled. I'm gonna look. It got approved late yesterday, like just before the courts closed. I haven't opened up the email to see what the new court date is. We'll see if it's in the new year or not. We'll see. It's probably gonna be in December. I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be. We're gonna find out, aren't we? We're gonna find out. Oh my God. Yeah. So then I went to go check out this bar that's in the neighborhood, and it's supposedly the only bar in California where you can smoke. So when in Rome, so they sold cigarettes there. And I haven't smoked in a bar in so fucking long. There's like, oh man, it took me back. But I'll tell you, these 30 somethings, they are pieces of work. Oh my God. Oh my God. Pieces of fucking work. There was one kid I talked to, 31, going on and on. Oh, I used to work for the Wall Street Journal, blah, 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 blah. I quit that, blah, 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 blah. He quit that to live in his parents' fucking garage. I'm trying to get my parents to buy a bigger house. I'm like, are you really? Okay. Yeah. Oh, he's kept calling me honey, honey, honey. I'm like, oh, okay. Wearing your plastic fucking flip-flops, your plastic fucking shoes, and you're living in your mommy's garage. Calling me honey. Okay, sweetie. Surprised you can wipe your own ass. Oh my God. Oh my God. Seriously. He kept calling me high five. I said, there is nothing sweet about me. He goes, oh, you seem sweet to me. I said, sweet like antifreeze. Sweet like antifreeze. And he shut up. But, I just don't. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fucking A. Telling me he's gonna win himself a Pulitzer. I'm like, okay. Not with that haircut and those flip flops, you ain't. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, but I won't be going down there to hang out. No, because I'll smoke. I did. I haven't smoked in years. I haven't smoked in like 4 years, right? I haven't had a cigarette at all in like 4 years. I smoked me like almost half a pack last night. Oh my God. My mouth tastes disgusting. I have brushed my teeth like 6 times. Oh my God. Yeah. American Spirit Yellows. Yeah. Well, they didn't have my camels that I like. Right. Yeah. I even still have a bit of a headache. Oh my God, all that nicotine. Oh, oh, the first one, I was like, whoo! I was like, wow, I remember now. Now I remember now. I totally have a headache. Ugh, totally have a headache. Yeah. Ugh. But, whatever. I'm not going out and buying any more cigarettes today. That's for damn sure. Yeah. Ugh. I might scatter a little tobacco. I have one cigarette that I have sitting with my sage. Yeah. Had a guy come in the gallery yesterday. Oh God. It was interesting. Coming in trying to going on and on. Oh, it's a nice healing space. Oh, us healers. He kept talking about us healers. I'm like, okay. Okay. We need to heal the earth. I'm like, okay. I'm sorry. That is not the perspective I come from in my work, right? We don't heal the earth. We don't heal the earth. The earth will kill us, right? So, like, the earth heals itself. The earth is self-healing. The earth has its own cycle, and there's this arrogance of, you know, um, being able to have influence over things so much larger than what we are. And it's hard. I understand it's particularly hard for men, um, and men in energy work. Oh my God. The men in the woo community. Oh, oh my God. Anyway, it's, this need of dominion over. And, we are assigned dominion, but that dominion is responsibility, not power over. And there's a difference between being a groundskeeper and being God, right? And so frequently, men that are on the path of healing work, they have God complexes. And he was upfront about telling me he had mental illness diagnoses, and he's cured it. He doesn't have a problem with it anymore. He does this, that, and the other thing. And it's just like, okay, whatever. You're coming into a space and telling a total stranger these things. Oh my God, so many flags. And then he's like, oh, I can bring you the book. Maybe I'll bring some postcards and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, no, I don't do postcards. But here's a copy of my magazine. And he's like, because, he's like this book that he's written and all this shit. And I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, tell me about it. And he's telling me about it, and um, 7 stages to quieting all the noise in the head and being accepting of this of the different voices. And the way he was talking about it, I said to him, oh, well, that sounds a lot like integration therapy for DID, for multiple personality disorder, for DID. And he like got all mad. And so I have to wonder if that's actually what his diagnosis is, because he seemed really upset, right? I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I have a lot of knowledge, and I've dealt with a lot of people with issues, and he was a little too contained and felt a little bit like a loaded spring, when I was talking to him. Like, okay. So I was gentle. I was real gentle, but I was also quite aware that he was a little wound and on the edge. And there were a couple times when his voice was shaking, and when his fingers, he was like bringing his fingers together. I'm like, okay, okay. So, like, whatever, dude. Yeah, seriously, seriously, dealt with that yesterday. Hmm. Came in and introduced himself to me as Tommy. And then at the bar, some other guy introduces himself to me as Tommy. I'm like, okay. I say, yeah, I met somebody else named Tommy today. Made me think of Tommy Lafferty. That fucking scumbucket. Oh my god. What a sleaze. Coke snorting sleaze. Tommy Lafferty. Yeah. Fucking thief. Mm-hmm. Coke snorting, womanizing, thief, and yeah. And a masturbatory guitar player. What do I mean by that? I mean, he always took solos a little too long, right? Right? Everybody else is just kind of like, get it over with already, Tommy. I remember one time at practice, and I don't remember what the song was that we were doing, but he took this ridiculous fucking solo, and everybody else like finally just stopped playing and just let him go and like looked at him until he finished. And when he was done, I just looked at him. I said, "More than two shakes and you're playing with it." Well, that's when he decided. That's when he decided that he didn't like me anymore. I know that that was the moment. The look on Mike's face, the drummer, was yeah. Wasn't too much longer after that we split up as a band. Oh god. We hadn't even given ourselves a name yet. We couldn't even agree on a name. And I fought with Mike um, because he wanted he wanted to cover Blondie. Well, I love a lot of Blondie songs, but he wanted to cover One Way or Another. And uh, not my tune, right? It's a good song, but it's not a song that I want to sing and personify. It's a stalker song. One way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you. One way or another, I'm gonna see you. I'll meet you. I'll meet you. Right? Like, I will drive past your house. And if the lights are all down, I'll see who's around. Right? Oh, it's a fucking creepy ass song. That is crazy bitch song. And no, I wasn't gonna sing that song. Right? I wasn't gonna cover it. Well, he got pissed. I'm doing all these songs that you want to do. I'm like, pick another Blondie song. Pick another Blondie song. I said, pick almost any other Blondie song. You want to do Atomic? We'll do Atomic. You want to, you want to do Tide is High? We'll do Tide is High. You want to do Heart of Glass? Once I love, it was a gas. Since turned out, had a heart of glass. Seemed like the real thing, only to find mutual mistrust, love's come behind. Right? I would have done Heart of Glass. But no, he wanted to do One Way or Another. And I didn't want to do that song, so we fought about it. And so he didn't like that. He didn't like that that I didn't want to do that song. Oh, okay. That's fine. Yeah. And then Greg, the bass player, he was the most normal, grounded person there was. And I can't, was he friend? He was friends with Mike. He worked with Mike. And I think that I didn't know any of these guys. I met Tommy through another gallery owner, Jan Watton, at one of her events. I met he and his wife at the time, Johanna. and they came over to one of my events. He was a money grubber. He had worked for Disney for a number of years, and then he was working for ILM, and he got laid off from ILM. And Mike and Greg worked for ILM and Industrial Light Magic. And Tommy was like, I can't remember if he was out of work, but he had another band that was based out of Florida. And he was a voodoo practitioner. He was a voodoo practitioner, and he was mad because he couldn't corrupt me, and he tried. Um, I'm just like, we can play music together. I mean, he was a smart guy, and he was a pretty talented guitar player, but he was also extremely sleazy. And he was real shitty to his wife, super, super shitty to his wife, Johanna. Johanna, she was a yoga instructor, and she had recently finished a psychology degree, had gotten her MFT license and stuff. And I'm just like, wow, I would never ever go to you. And it's like, how did you get this fucking license? Their family was a fucking mess. They had two teenagers. The girl was the older one. She was graduating from high school, and the boy was like a sophomore. And um, oh my God, those kids! I felt so bad for them. I felt so 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 bad for them. I felt so bad for those kids. I did. Felt so bad for those kids. Oh my God. Anyway, they divorced, and I saw Johanna out one time in Oakland. Omar and I, Luca's tap room, before it closed, um, there on Grand, and she came in with a date, after Omar and I were like halfway through dinner, and I got up and we were getting ready to leave, and I stopped and talked to her. She kept looking over. She looked over a couple times, but she didn't even bother to say hi. And I had heard that they had divorced, right? And he had just been the way he used to talk about her to me, like I was his therapist. Um, it was just disgusting. It was really, really gross. Um, and she was a little dippy. Was she Swedish? She was Scandinavian. She was Scandinavian. She had an accent and everything. And they'd been married a really long time. Like he was close to my parents' age. He wasn't quite as old as my mom and dad, but he was close, way closer to their age than he was to mine. Um, yeah. Anyway, he had the band that he was the other band that he was in. They had toured with Bon Jovi in the 90s, in the mid 90s. And that was still his like claim to fame. Oh, I toured with Bon Jovi. We opened for Bon Jovi, blah blah. I'm like, oh, whoop de fucking do. Um, what are you doing now? What was his band called? I can't remember. They were a fucking hair band. They were ridiculous.
Here you go.
Thank you. The French drain looks really nice.
Thanks. Hope it works. Come on, Brody.
It's gonna work. They work. They've been making them a long time. Do you remember? No, you wouldn't remember. Never mind. Tommy Lafferty. Oh, he was a pig. He was a real pig. Anyway, I saw Johanna when we were leaving Luca's tap room. Um, and I told her, I said, Johanna, how are you? She's like, oh, I'm okay. I'm sure you heard. I'm like, yeah. And meanwhile, she's sitting there with this date, saying, I'm sure you heard. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I said, you're better off without him. I said, you're smart. I said, you got yourself a degree. I said, you don't need him. I said, he treated you like garbage. And she, like, the way she slunk down in her chair and looked at me was like, it was really weird. It was really, really weird. And I just looked at her date and I said, oh, I hope you have a nice evening and enjoy your meal. And the date just kind of like smiled. But that was the last time I saw Hannah. Yeah. Tommy, he called me. We'd been working on a whole bunch of stuff, and we had done this show at this place called Joe's Garage, and it was horribly attended. And like none of my friends showed up, or one one Robert Vargas showed up. That was like the only person. And then the other person that showed up was Tommy's sister. Tommy Lafferty's sister. And nobody else showed up. Like the place didn't do a very good job of advertising it. And then Deb Grabian, like she had told me, oh, she wouldn't come to anything I did in Oakland, any of my events in Oakland. She's like, well, when you have an event in San Francisco, I'll come to them. I'll come to that. So she had been on my list, and I had sent her stuff about it. You know, she had been on the e-newsletter, and she didn't. And none of the San Francisco contingent showed up. So like, I was really hurt because I went to all her shit. You know, went to all her fucking shit, and that bitch, a cranky old bitch. Anyway, when I told her, she's like, "Well, I told you when it was in San Francisco I would come." I said, "This wasn't San Francisco. This was down in Soma." And she's like, "Well, why didn't you tell me about it?" I said, "I did. I sent you, it was in the e-newsletter." She goes, "Oh, well, you just write too much. I can't read all that." I'm like, "Deb, you're a publisher. You fucking publish books. You publish and edit books. Don't tell me you can't fucking read." I'm like, "Whatever. Whatever, you bitter old deadhead hag." It's I was just like, that was when I had it. Um, and I was still occasionally going over to do El Rio, and this is the last time I had gone that I went over to San Francisco. I think this was just the final fucking straw, and I called them and I read them the fucking riot act over this. So I had been going to some events that Brian Cozy had been putting on with at the Masons Hall. He was doing some small, they were small community events. This was after Dorsey's closed. They were like music events. And um, they were jams for musicians. They were musician jams, is what they were. And he did outreach work with at-risk youth through the Masons. And so like some of the musicians that were there, he was pairing older, more mature musicians with younger musicians, right? Who and he was trying to pair like safe adults with youth that was at risk. And so I had gone to a couple of his events, and um, I finally told him I can't. Whenever I hear from you, weird shit happens because I was starting to be followed around and people were doing shit to my car, and I had somebody sleeping in my car and all this shit. And I didn't hear from him anymore after that. But um, I met this kid Andre, and really, 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 really talented guitar player, very talented. And it was January, there was an event. The El Rio event was once a month. And there was a theme for every month. And January was Pajamuary, right? So everybody wore the pajamas and had a pajama jammy jam kind of thing, you know, without all the, without all the sex and shit. It was just a music event, right? So I asked him if he wanted to go do this event with me. And he was in foster, or had been in foster care, and was aged out, and was living with a family in Berkeley. And um, he was my impression of, because we met a couple times to practice, and he tried to come on to me, and I'm just like, no. I had to really set boundaries with him. And um, my impression of him was that he was a sexually abused youth who was now, as a young adult, working through that trauma. And that was part of, um, oh, Brian and I had talked a little bit. He hadn't told me, I don't know if he knew everything about it, but like the kids that he was working, or the young adults that he was working with, were coming out of really horrible situations. So like he was having some gender dysphoria, and whether or not he was transgender or not, I don't know. That wasn't my place to call. I wasn't, he was a child to me, whether he was in his early 20s or not. He was still a child to me, right? And I was not interested at all, right? Like we were playing together, music. We were playing together music. So the song that we were practicing together and that we went and did, he performed with me at El Rio in January, was Spooky. And it was I was such a fucking cheeseball. I had this green silky like slip, covered way more than what like Nicki Minaj wears to go grocery shopping, right? And then I had this kimono, and I put on my hot pink wig, and I painted my face with Queen Helene's mint julep mask, right? And I had these big slippers. And so and then I had a samurai robe that I gave him, to wear while we were playing. Like it wasn't anything inappropriate, and it was funny is what it was. So we get up there, and I'm all done up in my Queen Helene mask, and it's like in the cool of the evening when everything is getting kind of groovy, and it was a hilarious performance, and he was very talented, and I had hoped that the other musicians were going to be welcoming to him. Now he had some behavioral issues, um, some anger issues, and it's like stuff that I'd seen working with at risk and abused populations, um, specifically trafficked, right, sex trafficked, and he was a very attractive young man physically, right, but I mean, ugh, there's got to be brains there. There's got to be, the mind has to be there. The mind was not there. Um, ugh. So he wasn't familiar with all the etiquette. Now, I had thought going into El Rio that it would be a more welcoming space because it was a gay-owned bar, it was LGBT spot, right? Well, they weren't, and they kicked him out. I have no idea what he did because I wasn't his mommy, and he wasn't a baby, like, kind of thing. And I asked around to a couple people afterwards, and I guess he was trying, like, people smoked joints and stuff out in the back patio, and he was trying to bum joints off of people, like not cigarettes. He was trying to bum joints. He had cigarettes, and he smoked like a fucking chimney, and he smoked American Spirit Blacks, and those are really really heavy. The way that they're preserved, they're soaked in whiskey, and then they're smoked like you would smoke a cheese kind of thing. So it's like a double smoked cigarette with whiskey on it, with sugar on it. So they taste sweet. It's like, you know, they're heavy. They're heavy, heavy, heavy. Anyway, he got kicked out, and he like threw this fit, and all the way back into Oakland, he was spitting out the window and like doing everything, behaving in ways like every way he could to like try to get me to yell at him. I think he was, and you see this in abused youth, the push away, right? Oh, you're going to abandon me just like everybody else, blah 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 blah. And when I got him back to the house where he was living, I met his mom, right? Wasn't not his biological mom, but his mom. I met her when I picked him up. And I told her where we were going and what the event was, and what time I'd have him back. And so he was like 19, or between 19 and 21. He told me he was 21. He told me he was 21. He told me he was 21. I know he was over 18 because the events that Brian was doing were 18 and over. And he told me, that the youth that I'd be working with him would be between 18 and 25. That he was focusing with the Masons on those aging out, right? So Andre told me he was 21, right? And I had no reason not to believe him. Um, anyway, anyway, so there's some evidently he was asking bumming people for trying to bum joints off people. And then there's a break that goes in between the two sets. There's two sets that the band plays. Um, when you go in, there's a backing band when you go in to do that mic, that open mic. And nobody's supposed to play during that break. There's no music during the break. It's supposed to just be, okay, everybody take a break, quiet, set break, kind of thing. And he continued to play. And that, I guess, pissed people off. Anyway, the owner of the bar, or the it wasn't the owner of the bar. The owner of the bar wasn't even there that night. I can't remember his name. He lived upstairs and he had a cat, and the cat would sometimes sit at the bottom of the stairs and watch. Big fluffy cat. Um, anyway, the bartender that night came up to me and said, "You need to leave. You need to take him. He needs to leave. He needs to leave. You need to take him." And I was like, "Excuse me." So he was whatever happened, whatever they said to him, he was really, really, really upset when we were walking out to the car, and he was spitting all over the street. I said, "Knock it off." I said, "I don't need to be getting tickets down here." And so when we got in the car, he got in the back seat like a child. On the way there, he had sat in the passenger seat, right, when I was driving. But on the way back, after all this had happened, he got in the back seat and he started to talk like he was having some sort of flashback issue, and he was like having a little temper tantrum back there. It was like listening to a 12, 13-year-old kid, right? And he wasn't. He wasn't. And even younger than that. Like it was vergin on baby talk at points. And I'm just driving and I'm looking in the rearview mirror and I'm watching him, and like his whole physical self changed, and um went from being a young man, a young adult, to being this almost infant kind of, and very infantile kind of uh expression. And when I got him to back to his house, he wrapped his arms around me in a hug from behind the seat, and he kissed me on the cheek. And he said, "Thank you, Mom. I love you." And he got out of the car. And then I never heard from him again. So, my experience working with him before we went to go do that show that night, or to do that performance, was very much from the position of, therapeutic space. And at one point we were playing music back and forth, and I was talking to him about music theory, and about you know positioning yourself on stage during performance, and being aware of the other musicians on the stage with you, and being aware of your energy, and how you move that energy, and he's like, "Oh, I feel the energy." He's like, "You feel it?" He's like, "You know why I'm here. What are we doing here?" And I was just I laughed at him because it was funny to me. I don't know, maybe that hurt his feelings, but I was 34, 35 years old, and he was 21. I was like, "Whoa, no, you're a little boy. You're a little boy. You're very talented in what you're doing, and we're working here together, but no, 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 honey, no, 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 no." And I was respectful of him, right? But it was like he needed to be fed every time we got together to practice, right? And it was what I mean by fed. I made him a meal, like made him a sandwich. He had to have a sandwich, and you know, he was out of high school. He was out of high school. He had a part-time job during the day. So I'm saying he wasn't underage. He was definitely. So I said I have no reason not to believe that he was 21, but he was working through stuff, right? Like he had some serious issues. So after that happened, I called down to the bar, after I did some little bit of background, talk to some people and stuff. I called down to the bar and I read them the riot act. I said that young man is struggling with gender identity and he's struggling with a history of abuse and because they tout themselves as this safe space for community. And I said I thought of any of the places that I could take him to perform and be himself, it was going to be there. And I said, you know that when you work with youth like that, you get one shot and that's it. I said, and now he won't. Now I don't even hear from him. I said, you ruined it, right? I mean, working with youth like that is very, very challenging. And the guy, it was the bartender that kicked him out that night that I talked to when I called, because I didn't know any of those bartenders' names. I knew them by voice, I knew them by face, and they knew me. Um, but the place was always too busy to like get to know anybody's name, right? At the behind the bar. Um, he felt horrible. He was like, I'm so sorry. He said, you're welcome to come back. I said, I don't want to come back. That's what I told him. I said, I don't want to come back. He said, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You're welcome to come back. And when I told him I don't want to come back, he was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah, you should be fucking sorry. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't think about that. I took Tommy down to El Rio the one time too. And he was like, Bob Minkin was there with his wife. What's his wife's name? Susan. Bob Minkin's wife. Her name was Susan. She was there. They were both there because Bob was friends with Deb and what's his face, Ben Fong Torres, whatever. So I took Tommy down there, Tommy and Johanna down there the one time, and we played. And Tommy was like, "Oh my God, look at who Larissa knows," and I'm just like, are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Look at who I know. I don't know anybody. I don't know any of these people here. None of these people fucking know me. That's for goddamn sure. You know, um, and I come down here to play some music. There's some good music. There's some really good musicians. But then after that, like he knew Bob. Like he knew Bob because one time Omar before they lost their house and got divorced, before Tommy and Hannah got divorced and lost their house over in Alameda, we went over there for dinner for like couples hangout, and Bob and Susan were there, and we had a barbecue, and Omar and I took over a Kanafa. There was a bakery. Oh, the Muslim guy that owned that bakery in Oakland that got murdered. It was his bakery. Anyway, we bought the Kanafa from him. It's terrible. And we went over for this barbecue, and they were all there. And Tommy's like, see? We know some of the same people. I'm like, oh, whoop-de-fucking-do, because Bob had photographed me in Santa Rosa. They thought they had dirt on me. I'm like, there is nothing. You don't have any dirt on me. You don't have anything on me that my husband doesn't know. They thought they had some dirt or something. I don't know. And you know. Anyway, if you can believe it, Bob and his wife and Tommy and Hannah went in the bathroom at one point to snort coke. They went in their own fucking bathroom. I'm like, what's the matter with you? This is your house. I mean, I don't care if you fucking snort coke in your house. That's your fucking business. Just don't give any to me. You know? Oh my God. Yeah. Good riddance, Tommy. Good riddance. Thank you. Thank you for walking away. He calls me after we had done the show at Joe's Garage in Soma. He's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. You're like a child. I'm like a child? I'm like a child? I'm like a child. My husband and I, we pay our bills. You don't have your own pot to piss in right now, but you're telling me I'm like a child? Okay, Tommy Lafferty. Why don't you go back to your hairband dreaming down in Florida about, being a rock star? I tell you. I tell you. But there was a whole bunch of stuff that we had been working on, um, because we had been talking about going into the studio to record. We were practicing at Soundwave Studios, out in Emeryville, like once a week. Soundwave Studios out in Emeryville. We were talking, and then for a while a couple times we were doing practices over at Guitar City because those rehearsal rooms, when you rented them, they had you could rent them with a drum kit, so Mike didn't have to bring his drum kit to set up ahead of time, and and they had recording in the practice studio, so you could record your rehearsals. Um, oh my god, oh my god. We've been talking about recording, and some of the stuff, some of the motifs, the themes, the ideas, the thing, and stuff that we've been talking about in rehearsal started showing up in other people's music videos and stuff. Miley Cyrus had a whole bunch of stuff that we'd been. Miley Cyrus is a trashy little whore. She is. I felt bad for her when she was 13 and got and Leibovitz, her daddy let Leibovitz photograph her topless at 13. I felt bad for her then, but I don't now. She's grown into a trashy whore of a person. And there comes a time when you just don't have any excuse. You can't make excuses for yourself anymore. You gotta take responsibility for yourself. And the amount of intellectual property and shit that's been taken from me, I just find them all really gross. Really, really, really gross. She can buy herself her own damn flowers. Yes, she can. Anyway, anyway, no, Larissa is not sweet. Larissa is not sweet. Sorry, not sorry. Too much sugar will rot your teeth and give you diabetes. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, no more cigarettes. Yuck. Gross. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. I'm gonna be open today.